Chapter 13. Common Spelling and Grammar Mistakes That Freelance Writers Make. Look, I get it. Nobody became a writer to agonize over comma placement and capitalization rules. But if you're getting paid for your work, everything you turn in should be polished and be held to the highest standards of the English language. Even if your client doesn't know every nuance of grammar rules, they'll be able to feel if something doesn't read the way it should. I've compiled this list of the most common mistakes I've seen across the board when it comes to the written word. Consider this my addendum to Strunk and Amp, White's Elements of Style, which, if you haven't read, you absolutely should. A phenomenal and short book on all things about writing good. For more book recommendations, visit amysudo.com/six-figure-freelancer. As a disclaimer before we dive in, these rules apply specifically to projects done in the United States, as different countries have their own style guides. Cool? Let's dive in. Improper use of semicolons. God, I hate semicolons. I use them once in a blue moon, but generally I think they're pretty useless compared to the rest of the punctuation in our collective literary arsenal. If you must use them, please use them right, because they stand out like a sore thumb when they're misplaced. Semicolons separate two independent clauses, which means if you covered up the semicolon with your thumb, the two halves of your sentence would be full, complete sentences on their own. This is a good semicolon usage example, insert semicolon. We are happy with this usage, even though a colon would have been better. But the things I feel, insert semicolon, when the first half of this sentence is a dependent clause that can't be interrupted by a semicolon because it would be a sentence fragment on its own. This is exactly how this shouldn't be used. M dash versus N dash, dashes. What amazing things they are. I love the way dashes help my eyes dart over the page. They're great for pacing. But did you see the dash I used at the top of this paragraph? To get that typed perfectly, you'll notice that I hit the dash key twice and did not put a space on either end. That's an EM dash, and what we typically think of when we think of a dash used as a punctuation tool. An N dash is used in hyphens and ranges, like I worked out from 3 p.m., insert dash, 4 p.m. today. That's an N dash. Also notice no spaces on either side. You only hit the dash key once for these. If you're a screenwriter, you probably write your dashes like this. And then, dash, she ran toward the tractor party, barreling down the Nashville Music City street. Dash, and she didn't miss the party. Party tractors aside, we love to abuse dashes in screenwriting. We also put spaces on either end because it looks better in screenwriting software. Internet articles also have M dashes with spaces on each side. Same with pretty much every single other format except for manuscripts. But in manuscript format, dashes hold on tight to the words around them. Don't give them room to breathe. Suffocate those bad boys with ink. Capitalization inconsistencies. Did you know that if you mention your mom or dad in a sentence, they should be capitalized because you're referring to a specific person and not some random mom or dad from the mom and dad store? In addition, the first word after a colon is not capitalized. For example, capital N, not this. I know there's some debate on this one, so I'm siding with the Chicago Manual of Style on this one. Unless you're using APA's style guide, follow the above rules. I'm not going to get too far down the road with this one, but basically, if you're capitalizing something, ask yourself why. If you're not, also ask yourself why. And that's a great way to become the Insane Asylum's best grammar whiz. Always run spell check or whatever your tool of choice is. Technology is here to help us, so lean on the tools that help you. If clients are seeing spelling errors that could have been caught by a robot, they'll wonder why you didn't just use the robot. Why we're so tense about tense. Tense issues are the #1 problem I see in new writers' work. Unless there's a very good reason to do so, all memoirs and most book projects should be in past tense. As a screenwriter who has also written things for the internet, I know we use present tense to create a sense of immediacy for first-person articles and as a matter of necessity for screenwriting. However, in books it feels very odd for the reader, especially in a reflective memoir, to break into present tense. I think it's in part because of the form. A book feels a lot less immediate than a blog article. For memoirs, this is particularly relevant because we're already in a space to hear a retelling of someone's life. So the present tense shift feels particularly jarring. The worst thing you can do is jump from present tense to past tense and have inconsistencies throughout. So make sure that you're staying consistent, not capturing voice or sounding too formal. For most types of writing, you're going to write in a more conversational style. Sure, it's an elevated conversation with a lot more imagery and cool stuff, but at the end of the day, if you're writing in someone's voice, it should feel like that. For example, I have a ton of contractions throughout this document. Often I get chapters back where people write things like, he did not know where he was to go next, instead of, he didn't really know where to go next. See how big of a change some contractions make? Some of the best writing has the feel of a conversation, but the impact of a revelation. It's all about putting care into how you're constructing the book. Sentence and paragraph flow tips. The fundamentals of what makes a flowing sentence are more important than you think. Even the selection of consonants makes a difference. I chose the word flowing above because I liked how it felt with fundamentals. See what I mean? You'll also notice that every sentence in this paragraph is a different length. The variation makes it feel interesting and keeps your attention in a way that doesn't feel repetitive or like I'm just listing things in paragraph form. In prose, it's important you're studying what makes for an impactful, meaty paragraph. That begins with the skill of building memorable turns of phrase, but adds up to the imagery and impact of full paragraphs. Most documents and blogs out there have short, tense paragraphs. The internet has taught us to write that way, and if you're writing content for the World Wide Web, that makes total sense. But if you're writing a paragraph for a book, the feeling of the sentences should be a lot different. I can't break all of the nuances down in this chapter, but the best way to really hone your fundamental skills in prose is just to read more. Formatting for book projects. Manuscripts have their own witchcraft, which I encourage you to look up on the internet to walk through all the specifics. One major mistake I see is this. Make sure you're using page breaks when starting new chapters, not just indents. Otherwise, if you're just hitting enter, if someone pops your file into a different word processor or goes in to edit it, the chapter breaks won't stick and they'll spill into each other. Also, don't forget your page numbers. Basically, you want your document to be as clean and beautiful on the page as possible. You want your client to see only the things they love, not any of the other stuff. If a typo slips past your radar, that's no big deal. It's more that when you're perpetually misusing something, nobody is going to tell you. They'll just be able to know when something isn't quite right with what's on the page, even if they can't articulate what. And that could be the difference between retaining clients or not. At the end of the day, if proofreading grammar stuff makes you hate your life, consider subcontracting a proofreader to do a last pass on anything you're submitting. Happy writing. Amy's Field Notes, Why Grammar Matters. Despite having a pretty easy name to spell, I still get coffee cups with AMI or AMEE written on them. The jokes about baristas spelling names wrong is as old as time, but it's something people recognize. Oh, they spelled my name wrong. The mistake sticks out like a sore thumb, even though it's probably just a blip in your or the barista's day. Now imagine you paid $4,000 for that coffee cup at a high-end luxury coffee shop buried somewhere in the Swiss Alps. You're expecting it to contain the most epic mocha ever. You're smelling the organic cashew milk and the dark chocolate. You're in Switzerland expecting a cup that will change your life. But when you get your hella expensive coffee, your name is misspelled on the cup. How would you feel knowing you spent all this money on a fancy experience, and they couldn't even be bothered to spell your name right? While not all of your errors in copywriting will be as bad as misspelling someone's name, although I've seen plenty of experienced copywriters misspell names of clients, companies, and names of the client's own book, it still sticks out. The mistake reads as, I couldn't be bothered to double-check this. I was reading a popular freelance writer's book the other day and came across multiple spelling and grammar errors they had left in the published book. I was horrified for them. What better way to ruin your credibility with your readers and potential clients than to make mistakes in something that's supposed to be the epitome of your written work? When spelling and grammar are done right, they're invisible. It's the mistakes that lose you the trust of your clients. I create these voiceovers using Wondercraft AI, a text-to-speech tool that speaks in your voice so you can create more podcasts, audiobooks, and voiceovers, all by just dropping in some text. Use my code SUTO50, SUTO50, or the link in the description below to get 50% off your Wondercraft AI subscription. I get a small commission if you use my code, so thanks for your support. Sending creativity and good writing vibes your way. Amy.